I hope you had a lovely Easter, everybody. Aston Villa certainly did, Vish.
They did. They went on their own little Easter egg hunt, and they didn't find eggs, they found goals.
Yes, 4 of them. They beat Newcastle United 4-1. This is revenge, of course, for when Newcastle United beat them around the Christmas period, when Jason Tindall was wearing his Wham hoodie. Do you remember that?
Yeah. It was him and Eddie Howe, wasn't it, in the place of George Michael and Andrew Ridgeley?
Yes, of course. And,
do they only play each other around Christian holidays? This is something that
it must be.
Forgotten.
It must
It's a strange thing. It's a shame that Unai Emery didn't have a Duran hoodie, isn't it?
That would have been nice.
Yes,
just the word Duran is slightly tainted this season, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Only if there was another band from Birmingham we could think of.
Black Sabbath. Yeah, I mean, John Duran feels like a long time ago, doesn't he? It's testament to Villa that he feels absolutely irrelevant in their season, despite having made quite a big contribution to it.
True, but this was very much a claret and blue Sabbath, of course.
It was very much so.
For Aston Villa. A very good win. How were they going to respond after the PSG business, Vish? Well, that's how they responded. It was impressive, you've got to say.
It was. People were already well, I say already as if there was like much more to come this season, and there isn't. But people were chalking this up as their most impressive performance of the season. And this contains a season where they did beat Man City when Man City weren't as bad as they were becoming. And then factoring all the Champions League results as well. I suppose the impressive thing for this is, as you alluded to, how they responded from the PSG game and the fact that they battered the team who've been one of the best functioning outfits in the Premier League in recent times.
And who have beaten them handily 3 times recently as well. It was really, really impressive. You really would have thought, I know Newcastle played a lot of games recently as well, but that it would be Aston Villa who had little left in the tank. But it does feel like, as we expected actually, that the performance they put in at Villa Park made them feel like they belong in the Champions League and made them want more of that particular biscuit. And that's how it played out as well. And I suppose, obviously, Ollie Watkins was furious to be left out, understandably. But look how fresh he was. He played like a man possessed.
Well, that's it. I mean, they've got a bit of squad rotation going on there. And Watkins was the man who got the scoring underway after 33 seconds. Could have had a couple more when he was hitting the woodwork. And it's not been made of wood for ages. But I still like that expression, though.
Yeah. It sounds like wood, doesn't it? It's a satisfying smack that it makes.
Yeah, it's a good smack. I think you're absolutely right. So, yeah, Villa were, as you say, they're now turning their attention on what is still to be gained in this season. You know, you can lick your wounds after that performance. There's still the FA Cup, of course, but as you said, Vish, get back into the Champions League. More of that, please. They're still 7th, amazingly, but they're just 2 points behind Newcastle, who was 3rd themselves. You know, again, that's part of the Premier League is rather tight and exciting, to say the least. Ollie Watkins' goal made him Aston Villa's joint top Premier League goal scorer of all time, level with Gabby Agbonlahor. He's not messing around, Watkins, ever since he's been there, eh?
No, but
go on.
I don't want to disrespect him, but I suppose I'm going to have to. You'd want a better name to have drawn level with, wouldn't you?
I immediately thought, was it Dwight York?
Yeah.
Well,
Dion Dublin. No, it's and
Gabby.
it took a while to get there. Or to where he finished on anyway. But yeah, I suppose it really does highlight the situation that Villa and Watkins find themselves in that. You know, I appreciate we're about to discuss it. If you don't mind, I'll grab it and start discussing it now. But, you know, Watkins talked afterwards about how he was upset a bit at not starting the PSG games, the fact that he was banging on Emery's door to confront him, and just even drawing level with someone like Gabby Agbonlahor, and particularly where Villa were at the end of Agbonlahor's career, and the fact that Watkins, now as Villa's joint top scorer, finds himself in a situation where he's sitting out their biggest games of the season, just shows the direction of travel of that club and how quickly it's happening. Because it's happened in Watkins' lifespan at the club alone, where he is being not surplus to requirements, obviously, but despite the fact that he's been as prolific as he has been, they felt they needed a better option for those kind of games, a Champions League quarter-final, because that's where they suddenly find themselves in. And it's a credit to Emery for the way he's been able to deal with that, but it also shows that Villa are in a really exciting place. And in an exciting place, it doesn't necessarily mean it's an exciting time for everyone involved, because there are little things here and there that, like this, that come in and just put a bit of a fly in the ointment.
I can understand Watkins is disappointed, and you think if they need to score goals, why they're not starting the man who's the main striker. But the squad rotation and what Emery's doing there, it has obviously been impressive, of course. I wonder, though, the reports on Sunday were saying that Man United are considering a swap deal involving Marcus Rashford and Ollie Watkins. I wonder what Ollie Watkins would think of that. It was obviously linked with Arsenal.
And also what Villa would think of it.
Yeah, indeed.
Because that seems a weird story to me.
Yeah, there's also a little report, although it seems a very little one at the moment, that Manchester United and Victor Osimhen are in all this stuff is coming up. We're getting close to the summer.
Getting to silly season, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. But I think
it's also ruin it, Jim.
I think it's also worth pointing out that swap deals are really rare, aren't they? You see them; they're kind of a staple of the transfer rumour season, but they rarely actually happen.
Yeah, but they're still thrown out there. I mean, there was Mark Gay and Liverpool. I think there was one last season, or there was all that kind of stuff.
This is clearly someone just joining the dots from what happened in the Champions League and the fact that they want Rashford. And we talked about it before with the money, and they're like, what if they swap? Put it in print. Yeah. Put it in print.
Yeah. Well, you can understand Watkins is disappointed not to play in probably their biggest game of recent times, but he's clearly a very important player for them.
Yeah.
And actually, the way he played was very impressive. I mean, Villa, as it was highlighted on Match of the Day or by anybody who was at the game watching it, Villa bypassed the Newcastle press quite effectively.
Magnificently.
Yeah, with Emi Martinez's lovely bit of distribution and so on. I do love that. I mean, I can remember years ago, I remember Guardiola when he was in Germany, Bayern, and Jurgen Klopp and Dortmund. Jurgen Klopp often gave Guardiola a good game. Like sometimes really kind of cut through his teams and so on. But there was a particular occasion where the great Guardiola himself like completely changed style for that game, and they were just playing like these diagonals, and it was really quite strange to see. And you kind of go, yeah, it's a hoof is not the same. The old thing, it's a long pass rather than a hoof. But it's there's many ways to skin a cat and many ways to win a football match. And when you see that, it is kind of, for Villa fans, that would have been very satisfying.
Yeah.
The way they played so effectively to nullify how good Newcastle have been. And in the second half, they turned on the style, and Newcastle were a little bit out of puff. I mean, Tyndall himself said it was one half too much for his team. But when they have that kind of tactical prowess in their locker, Villa, they're a proper side, and this doesn't feel like this is last season they obviously made the Champions League, but you feel like they could be in the top. What do we talk about? The top 6 or the top whatever? They could establish themselves in the next few years there.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of their players who have spanned both those seasons have raised their floor a bit. I think of someone like Konsa. Like, I've always thought Konsa was a good defender.
Oh, he's brilliant.
But exactly. Also someone like Jacob Ramsey. We know he's a talented player, but the fact that he's been able to play in the middle or play out left and do so with distinction. Even McGinn, obviously we've always
McGinn's a great example of it. Matty Cash is another one.
Yeah, we've always rated McGinn, and I used to get annoyed when he plays for Scotland and they play him out wide, because it's like, why don't you just play him in his best position and work it out?
That's Scott McTominay's team.
Yeah, fine. Sorry, my bad, yeah.
Possibly soon to be Serie A winner Scott McTominay.
Yeah, but then he's done that role a bit for Villa as well, and he's improved there. And
was a championship player for a while.
Yeah, of course.
There he is against PSG, via a slight deflection. But, you're right. The floor has been...
Yeah.
He was fantastic in the game as well, deflection aside. And Boubacar Kamara is another one who's possibly a bit unsung outside the Villa fan base. I know they're big fans of him, but there is quality all over that squad, and it's really starting to show now.
Well, and Amadou Onana with his beautiful
what a finish he had as
absolute
well.
peach.
It really put me out of joint, that, because I was like, it's surely go for the other corner.
Yes.
And then he whips it into the near post top corner.
But it is getting those players again. Aston Villa are a very exciting club. And again, Emery's that type of manager who you see a player who, not bad, got a bit of potential, but he's playing for a side who are maybe battling relegation. Times are hard there or whatever. Come and join us, and he's just, oh my goodness, this is fantastic. I mean, when we did a video post the League Cup final about Newcastle, Jim, we talked about what do they have to do then to go on and strengthen, and you talked about raising the level of the floor, if you see what I mean, and that's what Villa have done, and I think Villa are aside, and I knew they're just having Newcastle 4-1, and Newcastle are higher than them in the table. But I suppose they could learn from each other. Aston Villa can learn from Newcastle, thinking, okay, you managed to get over the line and win a trophy. That's absolutely massive. But Newcastle as well, with what maybe some of their dealings in the summer, it is about raising the bar, raising the level there. Because the two of them quite literally replace Spurs and Man United in that conversation.
Very much so.
There.
Who's your top six now? Sort of thing. And they'll
cry Jason Tindall.
Absolutely, absolutely.
We should also pay special mention to Yuri Tielemans.
Yes.
Was outstanding.
Yeah.
Because as efficient as Aston Villa were in, beating Newcastle's press, he had the physicality to live with a midfield that we have rightly championed all season as one of the most industrious and skillful, really, in tight situations, and particularly, without the ball, how much work they get through. And I've not seen him as nimble, and I suppose he had to be, otherwise Villa don't have the game that they have. Mm-hmm. But I always think of Tielemans as a bit of like a, kind of like a through ball caresser, someone who's on his heels and quite stylish, but he was everywhere.
He makes a surprising amount of ball recoveries, I think.
Yes,
he's weirdly misprofiled by the sight test. Somehow.
I know what you mean. He's a quality player, and I remember when there was a bit of chat about him all the way back when he was at Anderlecht and he won the league and he was a sort of young player of the year and so on. And you hear about these young players, don't you, in perhaps not the most fashionable or highly rated league in Europe. And he went to Monaco after that. And
the Monaco move was a surprise.
It was a surprise.
Like, right, there's a big move coming. Who's he going to go to?
Yes, and it was an absolute coup that Leicester got him.
Yeah.
And you thought, was that Brendan Rodgers really kind of sweet-talking him and showing him videos of the title-winning season and all that kind of stuff? But he went there and won the FA Cup, of course. And when he went to Villa, at the start of his Villa career, or the start of his time at Villa, he wasn't playing that much, if I remember correctly, and he was often on the bench and he was getting frustrated, and it was a bit of a surprise. And I remember thinking, will this guy kind of fulfil what he's done? Look, winning an FA Cup with Leicester is obviously huge, don't get me wrong. And he was still, he's only 27 still, so obviously a bit younger then. And the way now he is such a crucial player for Villa in a team that, as we say, are very exciting and going places. It shows you that kind of patience that he had, but also what he's learned on the way is, he's such a good operator. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't think he would go anywhere, and I don't think Villa would want to lose him at all, but it wouldn't surprise me if a really top big side tried to kind of prize him away, because he's such an effective operator in there.
Yeah, I mean, you'd almost feel it was kind of moronic from that big side.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Considering like, I suppose the reason he ends up moving to Leicester is because people aren't necessarily sure if he's worth the outlay. Mm-hmm. Leicester end up paying 40 million for him. Mm-hmm. No one really comes in from them. I know. I feel like throughout his career, there's always been a link with Arsenal.
There has, yeah.
Somewhere or another.
He was expected to go to Arsenal in the summer, that he actually moved to Villa.
Yeah, because
the rumours were endless.
Because he was on a free.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah,
Blimey.
same. Yeah, I just literally just checked now because I was like, I swear he was on loan for a bit, wasn't he? And then he joined. But
he just loves the Midlands.
He does, yeah. But also, I remember the fact that he was free and the fact that they didn't play him as much in that first season made me think, God, they've just taken the risk because it's free, but they're not really sure, even seeing him train week in, week out, if they have the player that they actually want there. And he's become that, which is fair play to him.
He has. Surely, though, when you saw him smash that one in to win Leicester the FA Cup, that's not a risk, was it?
Well, he also suffered from the football game issue, where he was really highly rated when he was at Anderlecht.
Yeah.
So people would always buy him on Football Manager,
there you
or
go.
like FIFA or EAFC, and so they were like. So I think everyone's always had this jumped up idea of like just how good he could be, because even now I'm sure people are like, well, he could have been the best player in the world because he was amazing on FIFA 14 or whatever.
Yeah. Well, Villa themselves have won 10 of their last 11 games in all competition, which is very, very impressive. But again, at this current moment in time, when all's said and done, they are still 7th in the table. Yeah. So we, for reasons already stated, we say, well, they're going places and it's really exciting, which it is. But it shows you again just how keenly contested that these European positions are currently in the Premier League. Now, again, it is 2 points separating them and Newcastle, and I think we're all. again, Arsenal will finish second, surely. It's between third and seventh, isn't it? Looking at those sides. We've thought this for a while. Villa and that pack have pulled away from Bournemouth and Fulham and so on and so forth.
They play City on Tuesday night as well, which is now an absolutely massive game. It's a chance for them to, for them to overhaul City or for City to put some distance between them and the chasing pack. That is going to be a good one.
Well, we will be touching on the race for the Champions League spots again in just a moment, but there's a huge game tonight too. Nottingham Forest visits Spurs, and Vish and I will be recording Ramble Reacts straight after full time. So make sure you subscribe on your podcast app and hit automatic downloads on Apple Podcasts so that you're never short of an episode. Coming up after this, Chelsea give Fulham a taste of their own medicine. We're going on tour, everybody. The Football Ramble time tunnel is coming to a city near you. Glasgow, Newcastle, Birmingham, Manchester and London between the 9th of May and the 17th of May. Click on the link that's just appeared in the top right-hand corner of this video and get your tickets. Don't delay. Get one today.
What can you do differently on Monday to get a better result, do you think?
Score goals and not concede.
Is it as simple as that?
Well, it's football, isn't it? Got to score more than the opposition.
And how do you go about doing that? Because the team want to...
You tell me how I go about doing it. You tell me how I go about doing it.
Well, I'm not the manager of Cardiff City, am I?
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Thanks to friend of the Ramble, Marie, for sending us that clip. That was, of course, now ex-Cardiff City manager Omar Rizza, being a silly sausage. He was fired on Saturday with just 3 games left of the regular championship season. So Aaron Ramsey has taken interim charge as player manager. Player manager!
Lovely to see. I just thought that. My mind immediately went to... Viale, was it? Did Hullet have a?
Yeah, he did. Glenn Hoddle.
Chelsea had a bit of
Andy Hessenthaler.
Oh, blimey! Yeah, that's a good reference.
Maybe like Omar Rizza comes across like a bit of a bell there, but given what transpired soon after that, maybe he was actually asking, "Please tell me."
Yeah, that's it.
What do you need to do?
I mean, they can
I have forgotten. I'll be honest, I've forgotten.
They can still stay up.
Yeah,
they can still do it.
Well, I'm not Cardiff City manager. Oh shit, am I?
Yeah.
Not for long, don't worry.
Yeah. If you don't know, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. But yes, again, thanks to friend of the Ramble, Marie, for sending us that. You can become a friend of the Ramble too by heading over to patreon.com/Football Ramble. Back to the Premier League. Well, they're not going to be Premier League for much longer. Leicester City 0, Liverpool 1. Leicester have they've been officially relegated by Liverpool, the champions to be, surely. Jim Campbell. They're the first side in Premier League history to go 9 consecutive home games without scoring. They have been relegated. It is rather miserable.
It is, although there was long stretches of this game where it looked like they might actually get something out of it because they were sort of repelling Liverpool fairly well, and it wasn't particularly that they looked like they were going to score at any second, but there was a sense like, oh, maybe they can nick something while this game is that tight. But
they should have scored. They had chances.
Yeah.
I did. By the way, right now, if you're playing Liverpool, just go at them. They're knackered.
Yeah.
There's a combination of knackered and we know we're going to win the league.
To be fair to Leicester, I think they did try that.
Yeah, that's true. I'm more talking about Spurs.
Right.
But then that's fair to say.
That will be an entertaining game if they try that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is fair to say, though, that now that Spurs and Manchester United are mathematically safe from relegation after Arsenal's win at Ipswich Town, which...
Cheers. I didn't get to thank you for that, Jim. Thank you for that.
Obviously,
thank you for securing Manchester United's safety in the Premier League for another season.
Look, Arsenal need those points, of course they do, but I do feel bad for the rest of the league. To be honest, I feel like I should apologise on behalf of Arsenal fans.
It took to Manchester United's 33rd game of the season and Tottenham to have 32 games before they were both mathematically safe from relegation.
Ridiculous.
That's how it goes.
And one of them will be in the Champions League next season.
And 3 ridiculously bad teams in the Premier League this season as well.
Are we the Super League?
I think so. Yeah. That was the thing, Jim. Why go to a Super League? It's already here.
Yeah.
Exactly. We've got so many routes into every European competition.
We're living in great times. We are living in very fair and
it
great
does feel like
times.
that from the seat, yeah.
Trent Alexander-Arnold scored, back from ankle injury, celebrated very wildly. He got his fine torso out and about in the Leicester City. Was it sunshine? Yeah, I think there was a bit of sun.
Yeah, it's a lovely day. I, of many things, felt confused because I was very happy for him.
Yes.
Like, genuinely really happy for him.
So you don't think he's a rat then?
No, not at all.
Even though he's changed employers?
Yeah, well, I would have loved it if he had a Real Madrid shirt underneath. That would have been tasty.
A little tattoo.
I actually thought
The badge just drawn on.
Loyalty
or lolly, Trent, you decide.
Yeah, he actually got his phone out and started playing the Real Madrid goal music when he scored. I don't know if you saw that.
Lovely.
Also, he was actually throwing the shirt away in disgust.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
He finished the game topless, didn't he? He played the rest of the
I don't want to touch that. But I also realised that I haven't really seen him shirtless. And I was like, that's what you're working with, fair.
I mean...
some players...
Credit
Salah, always takes his top off.
Credit where credit's due, especially where I'm sitting. Credit where credit's due, absolutely right. But I wasn't hugely surprised, if you see what I mean.
No, not at all. But
he's ripped.
Yeah.
No, but
that's nothing. Take nothing away from the man.
But I'm just like, you don't really take your shirt off.
Yeah, I suppose.
Some people celebrate and they take their shirts off. He doesn't. He doesn't really do that.
Not many people do it nowadays because of the old bookings.
I know loads of players do it. They do it when they know they haven't been booked.
My favourite one is when they just don't seem conscious of it. They just take their shirts off as if it's the most normal thing to do in that situation.
Yes.
I'm fascinated as to why that's an automatic thing for some people.
I don't
but if you look like that, Jim,
maybe that's it.
Yeah.
We'll never know.
If you look like that, email show@footballramble.com and let us know how often you wear a shirt.
In the same way, they probably think, what do you mean you've scored and you've never thought about taking your shirt?
Yeah.
Because they've never known what it's like to be us.
None of us have found the right zinger on this show that's just zingy enough that just whack off it goes.
I think I respect the people around me too much.
Yeah, fair enough.
Who was it in the... Oh, Craig Beattie. Nothing will beat Craig Beattie taking his shirt off.
Yeah, the Beattie.
That was awesome.
I don't remember that. Talk us through it.
I would implore you to watch the video. He scores a last-minute penalty for Hearts in the... Was it the FA Cup final or semi-final?
Semi-final. And we just had the semi-finals, man, where Hearts missed out, so there's no need for this.
Yeah, sorry, but it does a lovely little celebration where he scores, because it's at Hampden Park. He runs around the running track in front of his own fans. And it's so far because he's on the outside lane as well. It's glorious.
In the way the little jig he's doing as well.
Yeah,
it's one of my favourite celebrations.
Yeah, but on the Trent thing,
going back to Trent
very quickly. I was really happy for him because it's very rare, like in this day and age, and certainly in all the time maybe I've been watching football. It's really rare for a player to leave a big club in their prime when they've been so successful and so integral to that club's success, and for it to be taken well.
Yeah, I know
because no matter how reasonable it is that they feel like they want a new challenge or this, that, and the other, it is unpalatable because so much of the game is built around what we want as from our players, which ultimately is like loyalty and a bit of love and that kind of stuff.
Especially when they're from your academy and they're from the same city as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But even not though. I mean, it's fair to say that Barcelona fans didn't take it well when Luis Figo left.
Sure, sure. But I think
you're right though. You are absolutely right because if you're sorry, Jim, but if you're playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. But wouldn't have a claim for being the biggest club in the world, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And you go to that, it is kind of like, you're saying they're bigger than us, that's a bigger thing. Almost.
Yeah, and it
could be an element of that.
And it's also just the idea that like Liverpool being the city and the team it is because of the city is when you lose someone like if Liverpool lost Steven Gerrard. Your soul's up for sale at that point, isn't it? And I feel like that's why I don't agree with any of the bullshit that's come Alexander-Arnold's way, by the way. But I can definitely see where it comes from, and it comes from that sense of like, oh God, like everything's up for grabs here. I can't believe you can't identify with us. And it's like, well, he fucking can, because look at the celebration to that goal. Look how he comes on and changes the game. And as if like there's not a body of work previously that shows how important he is to Liverpool.
I think there's also, I'm glad he's had that moment because he personally won't have needed it. The Liverpool fans in the away end, and certainly the Liverpool fans in Anfield, won't have needed it. But, there's a big difference between the way fans behave on the internet and the way fans behave in stadiums.
Yeah.
And it's tempting, isn't it, to see fans being silly, think it's funny, and think it's representative of how all of them feel. And that is not the case, and it's never the case. And I think that he's had this visible moment where that stuff is quashed is a really good thing for him and for them.
Yeah. I think the other important...
we will keep taking the piss out of it when it happens. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
We ourselves will selectively view things through that lens if it's funny enough. I don't want you to think we're going to stop being petty ourselves, but it's also nice to recognise that moment.
Yeah,
we can be petty about other people being petty, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
we can have it all.
Yeah, okay. We'll
have our cake and sneer at it.
Love it. It's a big old petty cake. And that victory, of course, means that if Arsenal lose to Crystal Palace on Wednesday, Liverpool will be crowned Premier League champions.
Don't do that.
No.
Don't do that, Arsenal.
Make Spurs go there and do Arsenal a favour, as Arsenal have just done Spurs a favour.
Yes, very true.
Yeah, be neighbourly. Be neighbourly.
Do you remember when Andrew was rather pissed off? Understandably,
which time?
Well, understandably so, when Manchester City came to town last season, and it was all Arsenal, Man City, and the Spurs fans were thinking, no, I'd rather not get into the Champions League and let Man City win, if you see what I mean.
He'll just explode.
Yeah,
if that happens. But he will just physically explode.
Yeah, but he won't. I think that the fact is that Spurs have been very poor in the league this season when they go to Anfield, and if they are beaten sort of fairly comfortably by Liverpool, even though Liverpool have been in great shakes recently, I think the whole kind of them being poor this season domestically, he'll kind of forget that, and his mind will be cast back to that, and he'll just be like, they threw the game. This is absolute nonsense. But I hope not, because none of it matters, because Liverpool will be crowned Premier League champions very, very soon, no doubt. Right, the West London derby happened, and Chelsea won it 2-1 at Craven Cottage, getting revenge with an injury time winner of their own, as Fulham had done at Stamford Bridge at the end of last year. It's a huge win for Chelsea, you've got to say. It's a funny one, isn't it? Because, again, we spoke up Aston Villa there in the first period, and rightly so. But they are seventh. Chelsea are 2 places above them. They're on the same points. But in terms of Premier League, their points tallies are the same. And Chelsea is still alive in Europe, lest we forget.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like that on Thursday night, but...
Reece James suggested maybe they'd forgotten that themselves.
Yeah, so it's a funny old season Chelsea are having, because I understand the frustrations that the fans are having there, but there's still a fair bit to play for.
Yeah.
But, I mean, not being at Stamford Bridge week in, week out, seeing a style of football which has become
unenjoyable, basically.
Well, unenjoyable, heavily criticised. Yeah, it's a lot of sideways passes, quite unenjoyable, blah, 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 as you say. Some very sloppy results, drawing at home with Ipswich and losing at home to Legia Warsaw when they looked like they just phoned it in. I mean, as you say, Reece James said, we disrespected the competition, which is just strong words, especially from a guy who didn't seem to do much media chat.
So everyone disrespects the Conference League.
West Ham didn't.
Everyone that
Fiorentina don't.
Well, they do. They haven't won it, have they? They just kept getting pumped in the final.
Yeah, well, they were trying, and they're back again.
Yeah, fine.
Anyway, your thoughts on Chelsea, Vish?
I thought they surprised me for the back end, because similar to you, like I've got mates who are Chelsea fans, and the thing I seem to get from them is that what they dislike about it, as you say, is not just a style of play, but also this sense of like, they rock up and they don't know what to expect. Mm-hmm. There's no consistency of play, but there's also no like consistency of feel, if that makes sense. They don't know whether their players are going to put in as much effort for certain games or what people's eyes are on. In part because at the start of the season, when it was working really well, they had a disjointed squad where, Cole Palmer wasn't in the Conference League squad. João Felix was like smoking him in on a Thursday and then like nowhere to be seen on the weekend. And there's been like a bit of a first team, second team kind of disconnect. And then it comes into this second half of the season where it feels, naturally teams have cottoned on to like their style of play. Cole Palmer was a bit off the boil. And then you have that turnaround yesterday where it's like, having thought that everyone was against Maresca and then realising, actually, maybe the players aren't against Maresca, or maybe they still have a bit more time for him, because it was a pretty impressive fight back. It didn't look like they changed all too much tactically.
I mean, they were very poor in the first half.
They were, but they kept at it. Like as they did against Ipswich, really, when they went 2-0 down. I appreciate they didn't win that game, but they're still fighting for him in a way that, because they're still such a team of individuals, you'd imagine it would be quite easy for them to turn on him as a collective, despite that. And yet, they're, to pull out that kind of result, I appreciate. I mean, I was actually also quite disappointed with Fulham, but to complete that turnaround in the way they did was actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, and a lovely goal from Pedro Neto as well.
Yeah, class.
His 6th of the season. I think there was a point where it seemed like he was perhaps a little bit underwhelming, a bit disappointing, and 6 isn't an amazing return, but it's kind of closer to what you would hope from him. And there's a really, really talented player there who I think we're probably going to see more from as his Chelsea career develops. It's a funny one, isn't it? I think part of the reason that the mood around the club has shifted a little bit, I just get the impression that for Chelsea fans, they don't really know what their owners are in it for. Yeah. It looks to me like the owners are in it to find innovative ways to make money out of football that no one's noticed before, and come in and be a bit of a disruptor in an industry that they themselves are unfamiliar with. And it's like, what do Chelsea fans get out of that? It feels like the ownership don't really care much about what happens on the pitch.
Especially considering the previous ownership, which of course, controversially, we know politically all the stuff that happened there. But just go with me on this, if you will. In footballing terms, Abramovich was a football guy.
Yeah.
Like, he cared about what happened on the pitch, and that obviously the fans kind of picked up on that. Now, again, we know what happened, as I say, with all that sort of thing.
Very different context as well, because the money they spent, you couldn't really spend now in the same way. Although saying that, they find ways around it.
Yeah, but the fact is, though, I think your summation of the current owners, again, not being a Chelsea fan, but from where I'm sitting, I think that's probably a fair shout. And that's what it comes across as. Whereas, to say, the previous regime, it was very much like, no, I want this football team to do well. I want them to play in this style. Whether they achieve that style or not is...
Yeah, the objective is clear, right?
Exactly,
the point is clear.
Yeah, indeed it is.
And despite all the sacked managers, it felt like during those tenures, he was a bit further removed.
Well, he was, but also...
They kind of were allowed to get on with it, but then if he wasn't happy, he'd pull the cord after like...
But he provided...
7-8 months.
Yeah, but that feeling almost provided the consistency.
Exactly.
Whereas now it's like, well, what are we going to end up with? Because let's be clear, the Conference League will give them a little bit of a cheer, but it will only be a little bit. We won't see any scenes like we did with West Ham or anything like that. So any cup's good to win, and they'll enjoy that if they go on and win it, which, the odds are stacked heavily in their favour. If they can get back into the Champions League, that will be an achievement. But I wonder if they'll
stay in it.
Well, no, I wonder if they'll... what this regime will do, because the previous regime would have probably got rid of the manager come the summer. And I don't think any of the fans would have moaned about that or worried about that, because the next guy coming in, he's good, let's see if we can, we'll probably win a league or we'll win something, and then we'll see how long that goes. Whereas this lot, you kind of think, well, if they do sack the manager, well, who are they going to get in? And they've got to be careful that they don't start to drift in the way that kind of Spurs have kind of drifted, if you see what I mean. I think Chelsea are clearly on league form are better than that, but there could be a little bit of a danger. But I think that's a little while to go now, and I think again the feelings around the clubs are very different, as I say. Fulham themselves, the losers of the game, of course, stay 9th level on points with Brighton, a point behind Bournemouth in 8th. After a good start, it didn't quite happen for Fulham. Silva, he'll be fuming about that, Vish, because not even a point gained.
Yeah, and it felt like all the ingredients for that kind of win were in place. You get the goal early, there's a lot of... there's a lot of good feeling in the ground, on the pitch as well. Fulham were playing some pretty good stuff. As you said at the start, Chelsea were bad in that first half, and they just kind of let them back into it. I mean, you must have been fuming during it, because also this was the game that Silva prepares for best. These kind of big games where all eyes are on you and you have a chance to show your worth as a manager and as a team, and they just couldn't get the job done.
Let's go for a break. Coming up after this, a bum was seen at Selhurst Park. Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. Right, Brentford 4, Brighton 2. Brentford very much in the hunt for 8th spot, as this win moves them up to 46 points, just 3 behind Bournemouth. An 8th spot, it's looking like, We will need confirmation with results and blah, 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 blah. But 8th spot could well be Europa Conference League.
And the Super League.
And that is that. I mean, again, Villa above, that's the top 7. I don't think any of the other sides with 5 games to go and 8 points in Bournemouth's case and 9 points in Fulham and Brighton's case, I don't think they're going to catch Villa or one of the other sides. I think we'd probably be in agreement there. So Bournemouth currently in 8th, Fulham, Brighton a point behind them, but Brentford there. I mean, you could even say Palace are involved. They're 5 points behind, but let's leave Palace out of this just for the sake of for Brentford, who don't get too many mentions. It was a fine victory over Brighton. And They fancy it, Vish, don't they? I mean, they're looking at 8th spot thinking, we're in a good moment now. We've got a little bit of impetus. Bournemouth have not been too convincing of late. Fulham, again, have lost 4 in their last 6. Brighton are dropping. Brentford could nip in.
It is B season, isn't it?
It is.
Seen a lot more of the fuckers around.
That's a good thing, though.
Is it? Really, with the pollen, Jim, is it?
You can't blame bees for that.
Well, they spread it.
Aren't they, they're sort of integral to the ecosystem not collapsing.
Oh, they say that about you can't kill wasps, you can't kill spiders.
Let's take them out and see what happens, Jim.
Yeah,
I'd be
fine.
up for it.
Yeah, so will I.
All right, fine.
Get out of my closet.
On your heads be it.
Well, just a friend of mine called Elon thinks it would be a good idea. Anyway, enough of the bollocks. Brentford, they scored 4 goals. Brian Mbeumo, 18 goals this season.
Yeah,
Johan Wissa, 16 goals this season. This was the 18th time they've scored in the same game. Only 7 pairings in Premier League history have a better record than that.
Well, it was a reason...
Will you turn to supporting this team, Vish?
No. No, I've always rather been QPR, but anyway.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Something new.
But I've got to pick a new team now, haven't I? That's how it works, isn't it? As soon as they drop out the top half.
Yeah. Be the glory hunter that you set out to be.
Yes, exactly, yeah. I'm being true to myself and my roots.
Yeah.
But I suppose to start with Mbeumo and Visa, there was a reason that they were able to play it so calmly with Ivan Toney. There was a reason that they almost use him as a distraction, because I still... they do wonderful things at a club. I'm still so surprised that Brian Mbeumo is still there.
I know what you mean.
And that no one has tried to basically rip him from them, because he is so good.
I think that's surely inevitable in the summer, though, right?
I mean, it should have been inevitable like last summer or the summer before that.
Well, I thought, if Salah had gone, then Liverpool would have been looking at him.
Exactly. There's a hint of Mane about it, isn't it? Because Mane at Southampton was excellent, but you knew that if in the right circumstances, there's a couple of extra levels in there.
But do you
think that with Mbeumo?
I think maybe that's it, though, isn't it? Because there's a sense that when a player like this performs well at a club, you think, they might come in and be a really good rotation option at a big club, but actually he's too good for that.
Yeah,
he's going to have to start.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you don't want him to go to a club, as you say, and then become a bit part player. And we don't see him putting in these performances. So I don't know where a good landing spot would be if indeed they Brentford fans are like, hang on a bleeding minute here.
Yeah, I know where a landing spot would be. It's not a good landing spot.
Yeah, true. Well, but this is all a bit harsh because we're talking about Brentford, who are having a good season. They're on the march again, and suddenly but then I suppose we spoke about Bournemouth like this, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly.
And we've often spoken about Bournemouth like that.
And I think a lot of it is timing of runs, because you look at Bournemouth now, and it's kind of sad to see, but at the same time, I suppose we can appropriate some of your conversation about Fulham into Bournemouth and be like, but look, if someone offered you, as it is now, 8th position at the start of the season, what would you have thought?
They've just stacked it differently. Fulham have
exactly.
Bournemouth at the start were really getting, now they're dropping off.
Yeah.
But you see by the points tallies again, Fulham have been a few wins here and a few losses there, and so on. Brighton again, they've had sort of gone on runs, and so, but that is the nature of mid-table in the Premier League.
And it's the timing of the run to the point that Christian Norgard, speaking after this game, was like, well, actually, we've been talking about 8th position when everything was moving in terms of teams in Europe and cup competitions and stuff like that. They'd obviously identified that 8th was a potential route into Europe, and it's an option that's still open to them. So they're kind of coming.
Yeah, if the permutations go that way.
If the cards land their way, but ultimately get 8th and let that sort itself out. Really, because at the very least you finish 8th, which is a fucking good finish for a team like Brentford.
Yeah, totally.
And so it's clearly the case that they've had this conversation in the last couple of weeks and are really focused on these final 6 games as it was, 5 games as it is now. And you kind of will them to do it because like as a you look at those top 12, and there are a lot of really impressive teams amongst the outside, your established, I suppose, hierarchy.
Yeah, and again, you look at those sides going for 8th, and if it is a Europa Conference League, it would be huge for Bournemouth, Fulham, Brighton, or Brentford.
Yeah.
Again, I always say it: never won a major trophy, any of those sides.
One of the things about the Conference League as well,
you're guaranteed to win it, Jim.
But it has established a new mini league within the Premier League.
Yes, yeah.
And thank God for it, because we'd have nothing in play this season in particular by now.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Like I would say, any Premier League side in that competition, as I presume that does work out the way it is, are among the favourites just because of the budgets.
Yeah. You would think Brighton's drop-off in form is probably quite alarming as a Brighton fan at the moment, because they were on a really, really good run not long ago, and they've not won in, I think, 5 in the Premier League now. Yeah,
I mean, I think if they'd have won that game, which, let's be honest, because of the two boys playing up top for Brentford, they never looked like they were going to, but had they have done, you could have argued, would that have put an end to Brentford's hopes of getting 8th spot? But they didn't, and but having been on a bit of a stinking run, they're only a point off 8th. So how you frame it, I think it's all to play for. There's no two ways about that. However, though, you're right to say about Brighton, it is a bit of a tricky situation there. I mean, Brighton fans were chanting, "You don't know what you're doing," at Fabian Herzler when he took off Welbeck and Belieber in the game.
Don't have a go. He's only a child. He knows not what he does.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's difficult to say. But I mean, Bournemouth, as you say, they have had a bit of a drop off recently. Although their 0-0 draw on Saturday does mean that they've reached a club record 49 points in the Premier League. So context is important sometimes. Yeah. Also, Justin Kluivert pulled down Ismail Sarr's shorts during the game. I appreciate that sentence. Sounds like I'm saying that he just sort of walked up to him and went, let's have a look.
Let's have a look at that.
Yeah.
Have they still got to play Villa? Should John McGinn be concerned? If you are an aesthetic appreciator of bums, presumably John McGinn's is something you'd want to take a look at.
It's your favourite bum, isn't it, Vish?
Well, he's my favourite player, and thus it has to be my favourite bum, I think.
No, you don't have to have it. You
You can't have a favourite player and then have a different favourite body part of a different player.
Well, I think you can.
I
think surely in the Eden Hazard era, you might be a fan of another player. But that's the arse, though.
Fair, but
Branislav Ivanovic.
If you're, true. Quite cumbersome though. It's quite cumbersome big backside.
But he knew how to use it.
He did, yeah. I suppose McGinn, if you're trying to put it, it's a 2-man job, that, isn't it? You'd have to recruit someone else.
Yeah, because he's not going to be up for it, and he's quite hard.
No.
It might be more than a 2-man job, actually. It might be a bundle
What
situation.
do you want to pull my shorts down? Oh, come on, mate. I did it last week. Just let me do it.
A bundle.
It's become my thing.
I think we have to move on. West Ham won. Southampton won.
Yay!
Come on! I don't know how to feel about it.
Well, they equalised in stoppage time, did Southampton, to equal Derby's record for the fewest points in Premier League history. So they are not going to be the worst side in Premier League history. That goal was celebrated properly by them. And damn right. Damn bloody right. So they've got, Vish.
I know, yeah.
Don't be so sneery.
Yeah, but when the buzz of what you're celebrating wears off...
Yeah.
It must have felt bleak.
There'll be a moment where they... because this was West Ham at home. There'll be a moment when they're walking back to the station in Stratford, and as you said, that will dawn on them that this is what they've avoided, and they'll be surrounded by West Ham fans who are fucking miserable. Yeah. And it's just a grim atmosphere going into that station.
But they bite your hand off for that, though, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, they're only 3 points above, 3 places above them are West Ham, but yet they're worlds apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really bad situation at West Ham there. So that was the 100th day of Graham Potter on Saturday.
100 days.
It was 14th when they arrived, the 17th now. 13 points from 14 games. I mean, Graham Potter often sort of makes a point about how he needs time, doesn't he, to get his ideas in play. But Nicholas Füllkrug's comments after the game suggest that the players aren't really kind of listening to his ideas.
Well, I mean, he didn't hold back. It was an extraordinary post-match interview. I mean, he talked a lot, so I implore anybody to seek it out who haven't heard it. But there was one particular paragraph where he talked about the lack of, I suppose, desire or purpose in this team and how they just drop back, bearing in mind the opposition as well. And he said, it's a mindset problem. I'm not disappointed. I'm just angry for what we did after the goal. The motivation. Sorry, we were shit. It's not the first time that we score a goal and then we just shoot the ball long. We don't play football anymore. We just sink. I mean, they are strong words.
He also said the coach is very clear what he wants, but we have to do it all. Everyone has to do it. Now, my favourite line in that is, I'm not disappointed, I'm angry.
Yeah.
Like
Because normally it's the other way.
Dad.
Yeah, completely. But I mean, but he's right, though. I mean, it's obviously it's been a miserable season for Southampton. We know this. You know, they need a point from the last 5 games, so they're not. So they avoid being the joint worst Premier League side ever. You know that we all know about that. But West Ham United, 36 points from 33 games. They're 17th. Again, fortunate that Ipswich and Leicester have also been pretty bad, and we know the situation there. But it's this summer is crucial.
Yeah,
it really, really is crucial for West Ham, and we want to get into this subject a little more. And so, Jim, you and I will be discussing West Ham's problems and whether Graham Potter is the right man for the job, and much, much more on today's YouTube video that will be out at 6 p.m. So we'll have a bit of a deeper dive into West Ham over on our YouTube channel. So just search Football Ramble on YouTube and hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode from us. But yeah, a lot of work that West Ham need to do specifically this summer. Because this season has just been a big old write-off for them. Now, we're going to finish the show by talking Major League Soccer, and in particular...
Where are we going? Where are we going now?
It's his Easter too.
Right, we just talked about...
Olivier Giroud scored a lovely free kick for LAFC, did he not? Did you enjoy that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, go on then.
World Cup winner Olivier Giroud.
Yeah, that was nice.
A little treat for us here as well.
3-3 draw, LAFC with Portland Timbers.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Good. Fizzer gave the referees a piece of his mind after the game. They just want to be the kings of the castle.
He didn't say that loud.
They just want to be the kings of the... Surely the kings of the castles. You only have one king in a castle.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Anyway.
Idiot.
It's all about them. They just want to show they're the main people in this league, and unfortunately, it's just not good.
So he has actually, for the first time, touched on something genuine here, because the feeling around referees in MLS is quite a bad place at the moment. At the same time, is he jumping on the bandwagon?
Is there anyone in a position of authority in America that's not buggering it up at the moment?
But is he jumping on the bandwagon, or is he actually right to be calling this out? Because I'm not totally au fait with this situation around this.
This game
that has elicited this response from our man Fizzer.
There was a few.
Your man Fizzer.
There was. Right? Getting on board. There was a few decisions in this game that he was very unhappy about, which one could sympathise with. But he does, you're right though, he seems to be, dare I say, leading the charge in this chat.
Well, that's not quite what I said.
And I think there's a lot of... No, you're right. No, but he's trailblazing, Vish, as you just said.
Again,
stepping up where others won't. He's showing leadership.
It's a different Portland team you're thinking of there.
Exactly, Jim. And I think a lot of people are going to, as you've predicted there, a lot of people are going to get in his slipstream and will be delighted that he's going to... lead them into a better place.
Is he going to be the figure that turns things around in America, you think?
Quite possibly. Quite possibly.
Can you imagine him in the Oval Office with his little face?
Shaking fucking respect.
Oh, dear. Well, anyway.
Accidentally called Gary, but Don.
All right. Anyway, yeah, good point for Portland. Look, they've improved. You have to say they've improved.
Where are they in the league?
Well,
in the standings.
If you remember,
where are they in the Friendship Cup or whatever they call it?
Oh, don't have a go at that. Well, there's 15 teams.
Yeah.
In the division. 4th.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Fair on the march.
What have you not told me there? There's something you haven't told me.
Serious point deductions. No, they're full. They've turned the screw.
Are there tariffs on the other 11 teams below them?
Right, that's enough.